few more. Thank you for coming, by the way. This is great. This is fantastic. This is not what I expected, but this is wonderful. Francis, should I go ahead and start? Okay, great. So, hello everyone. I am Thomas Butel, and I created the artworks that you see here. And I was asked today to talk about my creative process. Some of you may have noticed that I put some things up on the wall there that speak to that. So I want to talk a little bit about what is it that I do to stay creative and to come up with ideas, to be inspired. So that's what the talk is going to be about. It's not going to be specifically about making things. It's more about how do I sort of maintain forward motion for my creativity. So I want to start with sort of a little backstory about how I got here. In late 2018, I took a leadership course. This was with one of my clients. I do internet development, and I have lots of different clients. And one of my clients invited me to participate in their leadership program. And out of that came a sort of realization. So I showed, in that leadership talk, I showed one of the things that I do, and that is I create these little butterflies. And these are made with clothespins and wire and paper. And this wasn't sort of the core of the leadership program, but they wanted to see something that sort of represented what I do. When I was very young, I actually collected butterflies. I don't collect them anymore. I now prefer that they just, stay wild and free. So now what I do is I go ahead and make them in miniature. And so I showed this to the participants, bless you, and I kind of expected a few oohs and ahs. What I didn't expect, though, was this. People looked at it and said, "How do you make these? And show me how to make them." Right? So I discovered very quickly that there's sort of a yearning out there for that people want to know how to make things, how to make beautiful things, and how do you make beautiful things with your hands, basically. So that's sort of the genesis of this. So I went from that leadership course thinking, okay, I'm going to have a workshop, and I am going to try to find a venue somewhere. And you know how it goes after you experience a workshop, you feel really pumped up, you're going to do it, and then over a few weeks and months, it's like it sort of fades a little bit. I couldn't really figure out where I'm going to do this, where am I going to find a venue. I didn't necessarily want to do it in my house. My family wouldn't appreciate that too much, so that was that. It was in the back of my mind. In the meantime, in early 2019, I joined the Sunset Sketchers. Now, Sunset Sketchers is a local group here in the Sunset District, and we go out every weekend, and we go out to a venue, whether it's a cafe or a local outdoor place, and we just do sketching. We do urban sketching. So we just sketch what we see. We sketch people, we sketch houses. And I had joined in the beginning of 2019, and in May, the Sunset Sketchers decided to have their first show. And it was right here in this art container, right here. And so I volunteered not only to have a few of my sketches on display, but I also volunteered to sit and greet people and meet people. And as a result of that, I met the program manager. Program manager is Susan, actually.
It was.
Yes.
At that time. And now it's Francis.
And now it's Francis. And I said, you know what? I have this idea. I want to show people how to make butterflies. I want to hold a workshop. And Susan said to me, you know what? you should be an artist in residence here. And I said, what? Artist in residence? I was a little taken aback because it's like, you know, I didn't feel like I was, I didn't feel like I was an artist, right? There's a lot to that word of being an artist. So, you know, when I was thinking about, okay, what would it mean to be artist in residence? There's a lot that sort of got in the way. And so I gave some thought to it, and you know, finally I said, okay, I'm going to commit to this. I'm actually going to be artist in residence. But the question is how am I going to do that? How am I going to get there? How am I going to get to this point where I have all this art and this display and everything? Okay. So I thought about it, and I realized that I needed some tools, some creative tools that would help me basically get out of my own way, right? The idea being is that sometimes you get too far into your head. So the first thing that I did as a part of this was to actually hire a coach. I hired a creative coach, and you know, coaches, what they do is they basically ask you the tough questions that you're not asking yourself, right? So the biggest question that she helped me with was, why am I not able to call myself an artist, right? So we worked on that. We did a lot of homework. This is what the homework looks like. One of the homework questions she came up with was, what I say when I'm procrastinating or in a creative stuck. So I wrote down, these are all the things that I write, that I tell myself when I'm procrastinating, right? And then I wrote down responses. Basically, you know, what is the answer to this procrastination? And so my coach helped me through that, and we went through basically it was an 8-week coaching program. Finally getting to, you know, what this is the one I love here, is like, what makes an artist? And so I wrote down what makes an artist, and why do I think I'm not an artist, right? And by doing this process, the question she finally asked me was, why are you giving the word artist so much power and so much authority over you? And I said, you're right. I don't know why I'm doing that. And from that day on, I said, okay, now I can call myself an artist. I've been creative all my life. I've been tinkering since I was a toddler. I know this because I've seen pictures in my family's album of tinkering. I sketch, I draw, I created things all my life, and it wasn't until last year that I called myself an artist. So coaching was really an important part of that. I also looked to other resources, and one of the resources that I used is a wonderful book by a great artist. Her name is Melissa Dinwiddie. She has a book called The Creative Sandbox Way, and she has 10 guideposts in there that basically talk to how to stay creative every day. And one of her guideposts is tiny and daily. The idea is that it doesn't matter what you do that day, at least do something. So that was very helpful to me to stay creative. So I have some daily rituals. I meditate in the morning, and I do my gratitude practice at night. And you know, meditation is a practice. It's basically, you're always learning more about the meditation process. And meditating is, the form of meditation that I do is basically to quiet the mind. It's a breath meditation. But the purpose of it is to notice. It's to notice what your mind is doing, right? It's another way of getting out of your way, because once you notice that what your mind is doing, you can stop doing that. You can stop doing the thinking, and you can just get back to where you are. One day I was listening to an interview with Deepak Chopra. He is a great proponent of meditation, and he was being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and she was asking him listener questions. And one of the listener questions was, is it okay to dream while you're meditating? And Deepak said, no. You don't dream while you're meditating. The purpose is to stop thinking, to stop dreaming, to basically be present. And then he said, and this is the key, sort of the light bulb that went on for me, he said, you can dream afterwards. And that was a light bulb for me, because I realized that, I do a lot of thinking and dreaming in my meditating, right? That's what happens when you meditate. You slow down and you're present, and all of a sudden you're thinking about something. So I thought about that for a little bit, and that's how I came up with my dream practice. So now every morning after my meditation, I do a dream practice. And the idea with a dream practice is almost like meditation, except that I allow myself to think of creative ideas. The dream practice typically is I close my eyes and I just wait for something to appear, some object, something that I can hold in my hand. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, but I'm patient, and of course now that I understand meditation and how to quiet the mind, I make sure that I'm not thinking about something else, that I'm not thinking about what I need to do for work that day or the politics of the day or whatever. I always get back to thinking about creativity, dreaming about creativity, letting some sort of inspiration come in. And this has been very successful for me. So what I do now is I do this dream practice, and I will write it down in my bullet journal, my daily bullet journal. And every day I come up with usually 3 to 4 ideas. Recently, especially with all this that's going on here, I've been coming up with up to 9 to 10 ideas. And it's wonderful, because now I have my bullet journal is like an encyclopedia of creative, wacky, strange things that I may or may not do in the future, right? I have so many now I have so many ideas now in my bullet journal. There's no way that I could ever do that in my lifetime. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to practice allowing yourself to get inspired and get ideas and then write them down. What I do now with my bullet journal is I literally go through and I highlight it, and I look at these ideas that I've written down way in the past, and I highlight them and say, that might be an idea that actually I might do. So that's the dream practice. The other tool that I use is mind maps. I don't know if you're familiar with mind maps. Mind maps are just another way to get out of your way. The idea with a mind map is you start with your intent or your idea that you want to think about, and then you start writing down related ideas very rapidly, without editing, without allowing yourself to say, no, that's a silly idea. Everything gets put down on the piece of paper. I do mind maps constantly because it's my way of, again, getting out of my way. It's been my way of figuring out, okay, what is it that I really want to be doing right now? Sometimes I'll be mind mapping as like, what do I want to do today? This one is what would I like to do this weekend, right? You can see that they get pretty wild. So the purpose of the mind map is simply to allow myself to get everything out of my brain onto paper, so then I can sort of see it and look at it and say, oh, this is really what I'm interested in right now, right? So I'm probably not going to follow the whole mind map, but the mind map at least got everything out so that I can look at it and make some decisions. If I didn't do the mind map, if I just sort of sat there and thought about it, my internal editor would just shut things down, and I would never see all the things that are possible. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you think is different between like when you write a list, how it's just like more dynamic, just doing it, having your brain arrange it in a different way? Is that the difference between a list?
I think the arranging step is like an editing step.
Uh-huh.
There's something for me, it's something too formal about outlines, right? That's why I like the messiness of just, it'll just go anywhere on the paper that it needs to.
Right. Yeah.
I usually start in the middle and then goes here and circle around like that, but that's just the way I work. But that's not intentional, right? It's just how my mind maps happen. So mind maps, coaching, the dream practice, and then the final tool that I sort of discovered more recently is an outgrowth of the work that I do professionally. I'm a software developer, and I work with several companies, and they use a software development process called Scrum, or Agile, I should say. The idea, roughly, the idea behind that software development is to develop a plan that spans a couple weeks, and then check in every day or every other day to see how it's going. It's different than, let's say, if you were building a house. You'd find a house builder, they would go off and say, okay, I know exactly what I need to do, right? I need to build these floors, I need to connect the sewer, I need to do electrical. Everything is fairly well defined in house building. In software, that's not the case. In software, it's more of an incremental process. So you're always refining and tweaking and adding features and making adjustments. And so the Agile process is just more suited to that. And so I am a part of a team, and we check in every other day, and we do sprint planning every 2 weeks. And it occurred to me one day and say, this is actually kind of a cool process, right? It's nice to be able to check in, and it's nice to be making this progress the way we're doing. I'm wondering if I could apply it to my own creative process. So I Googled it, and I think I Googled something like Scrum for personal use or something like that. And I quickly found an article on Lifehacker called Scrum for One. And the idea for Scrum for One is essentially this. Even though you're not building software per se, you can still use it to define what it is you want to do over a short time, and then check in, doing the Scrum. The Scrum is a term that comes from rugby. It basically means huddle, like in football, you're doing a huddle. You're checking in every so often. So I adapted this methodology. I adapted the methodology for my creative process. I did this around September last year. And the idea is that in my version, I do a sprint plan or a weekly plan. I write down a major goal, just one major goal, what I want to get accomplished this week creatively. I write a few minor goals. I leave space here for my check-in. This is a self check-in. I just go every day around lunchtime, and I ask myself, how am I doing? Is there something blocking me? Do I need something else? Do I need to, get something from Amazon, whatever it might be, right? And in a more recent version, I've added a section here for a reflection at the end of the week. And this has really helped me. This is what allowed me to create this show here, basically. Carl the Fog and Sunset Scuttlebutt and Sunset Emotion and the windmill back there were all done. Were all accomplished by using Scrum for One in my weekly process. And the thing that I love about this is the built-in self-reflection. Again, it's about getting out of your own way, because you can get stuck sometimes, right? And the idea that every day I'm going to check in and just figure out, okay, where am I? How am I doing? Is just it's a relief. It's like, oh, this now feels lighter. It feels easier. And the other thing is that these projects didn't happen in just 1 week. These were 6 to 8 week projects. I don't know about you, but long projects feel heavy and feel like, how am I going to get all of them done? So by breaking them down into 1 week projects, it feels a lot easier. There's something there's this thing that happens where I know that if I feel bogged down and I feel like I'm getting stuck, or if I'm getting bored, for that matter, with this project, I know that I can just change to something else next Thursday, right? I'm always less than a week away from changing to something else. So this, in particular, this process right here has helped me feel more grounded than I ever have been in my creative life. So
would you, say, for the Carl the Fog,
yeah.
you would have used that Scrum process, well, this week I'm on Carl the Fog and I'm going to get this is my goal for Carl the Fog. Right. Something like that.
I'll have some specific items here that basically say, okay, today I'm going to be working on, the servos, or I'm going to be working on the crank and whatnot. And again, there's this thing that happens in creativity for me, and that is that I wake up and I say, what am I going to do today? Well, I don't have to ask that question anymore. I know what I'm going to do today. I just look at my Scrum for One sheet and I say, oh yeah, I need to work on these items. I need to finish this, and so forth. And I have my self-reflections. I have to do lots of self-reflection, which is really, really helpful. Because it's I don't know how to describe it, but it's creativity is really a mental process, and it helps to again, to get out of your way. I'm constantly trying to get out of my way to continue doing this. So that's that.
I'll just have a question.
Yeah.
So, when you're in the middle of an 8-week project, can you actually show it to everybody to get some feedback about what you're creating? Or do you just decide from the beginning, I know what I want to build, I'm going to build the whole thing, and then I'll expose it to the world?
I am a big believer in showing your work, and as I'm building as well. So this all goes on Instagram, basically. Nowadays, it's all about Instagram. But everything that I'm working on, as I'm doing it, gets posted on Instagram. My Instagram has been kind of quiet lately because I've sort of been here. I've been busy with the residency. But normally, I try to post something almost every day. And it's good for feedback. It's good to actually get that feedback, and people are saying, "Ooh, that's kind of cool," or they're asking me, like, "What's that about?" or "Why did you do this?" You know. So it's great to get that feedback.
Do you get feedback that you don't like hearing, too?
Yeah, occasionally. There is a way. I mean, the way that I look at it is, I really appreciate feedback from fellow artists because I know that they're in the same space. They're in the same arena, so to speak. Right? That I know that they are facing the same struggles. If it's just somebody who's sniping but is not clearly, doing the work or doing the art, then it's like, okay, I don't take that as seriously. So those are the techniques I use: coaching, mind maps, the daily dream practice, and Scrum for One, and that combination has just boosted my creativity and allowed me to do all this stuff that is fun. I mean, for me, it's fun. Art is fun, so that's my talk. I'd love to take it. Please let me know if you have questions. Yes.
When you do your dream, you're writing all the ideas that come up, and then also you're 120.
Yeah.
Do you go back and just say, if you finish Carl the Fog, do you go back to 2 weeks ago, or do you ever look back and say, oh, I thought of something X amount of time ago?
I look back all the way. Yeah, sometimes it's just fun to go back and say, oh, yes, I love that idea. Because, there's that sort of that building quality of art. Now that I've done the windmill and I've done Sunset in Motion and I've done Carl the Fog, I can look back at something and say, oh, now I know how I might do that. So it's very well worth going back in time and looking. And like I say, I often will go back and just start highlighting as like, that was a cool idea. And then other ideas is like, okay, I remember that, but it's probably not going to go anywhere. So, yeah, that's how I do it. You had a question?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in terms of when and how, at what point you use the different tools that you just mentioned. Like, you have the dream, you have the mind map, you have the Scrum, and is it sort of like steps in the creative process? Like the dream thing is really open and things are just coming, and the mind map maybe, you would pull them out at different times.
Right, I do pull them out. So the dream practice is every day, every morning. I get up, I have breakfast, I meditate, and I do my dream practice. And now I'm even at a point where I don't even look at any emails or anything before I do that, because I like to just have a nice, calm, easy meditation and just a wonderful dream practice. So the dream practice is every day. I do go back and look at them maybe every other week. I'll go back and read some things and get reminded of what I'm thinking about. Sometimes, very occasionally I'll do a dream practice and nothing is coming up for me. And in that case, I'll just come up with some questions. It's like, what would I do if I could build it this way? I just come up with some prompts, let's say. Occasionally I'll start a dream practice with a prompt. Like a couple of days ago, I used sand as a prompt. So what would I build with sand? What could I do with, turning things around and having sand do the motions and stuff like that. The mind maps is just a general tool that I use when I'm like, okay, I need to get like a big picture of something. So let me do a mind map real quick and flesh it out.
Organize your thoughts. Yeah,
it's basically a tool to organize, but also to get them out, right? To actually get them out and not let them get stuck in there. Mm-hmm. So mind maps I use freely whenever I do that. The Scrum for One is every Thursday I do a plan for the next week. So it's Thursday to Thursday, and then every day, every other day, so every not Thursday, I do a check-in. And sometimes I miss it. You get busy, life happens, but for the most part, I'm pretty successful. Sometimes I don't get to a check-in, but that one actually I did pretty well. I don't remember my notes. Okay. This one I did pretty well too. Let's see. Didn't do a lot here. This was actually over Christmas, so I did a 2-week sprint, and I checked in like every other day. But I was able to do a few things. But again, this is like I said. What I love about this tool is other than when I do my plan on Thursdays, every other day I just have to look at this and say, okay, that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Because I organize my day, I have my day job, right? So I work during the day, and then family time, right? Dinner. And then it's usually after dinner, so 7:30 and after is when I get to be in my workshop and create and work on things. Yes.
Can you tell us more about your physical workspace? Like all of the stuff seems very portable. Do you feel like is there any benefit to actually being in your workshop when it comes to coming up with creative ideas?
That's a good question. So there's in our family there's 4 of us, and so there's always something going on in the house. There's usually the TV is on and someone's watching TV and someone's in the kitchen with the radio, and so I do have to escape. I live in a very typical Sunset house with a tandem garage. We still have we're able to park 2 cars in there. So the cars are actually my escape. I go and sit in the passenger seat, close the doors. It's nice and quiet, and I know it seems strange. We don't have another place in the house. Yeah, but so that's sort of my place that I go to when I need to have absolute quiet. So I'm down in the garage and sitting in the car in the passenger seat, and I'm doing whatever I need to do. When it comes to actually creating, the beauty of having that garage is I can chase the cars out and just park them on the street if there's parking. And now I have this huge space that I can set up these tables and whatnot, and then I can start building. And half of the garage is a model railroad, so it's half of the garage is taken up with my other art projects, basically. So I'm either down there to get away from the noise and to have some quiet and to think, or I'm actually building and I may also find that my daughter's down there. She's also a maker. She creates costumes and she creates props and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes the basement is already all taken with sewing machines and whatnot. So it can get busy, but usually during the week the garage is mine. Yeah.
I know a lot of artists and writers and musicians have fear of showing their work because a lot of fear that stops you from, even if you're creating.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about, were you always open to sharing your work, or is this something that has happened recently, or how did you get to that place where you're comfortable sharing?
The book that really turned it around for me is by Austin Kleon. His book is called Show Your Work. And he makes a very strong argument in that book that we're not living in the 20th century anymore, right? Where the idea of art was to sort of hide your process and then just show the final piece. That was sort of the way people thought. Nowadays, with the internet, there's nothing that stops you from showing everything. And it's because it doesn't cost anything to show it, right? I mean, you have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and everything. Why not just show it out there and share it? And the main thing is that because everybody else is doing it, right? It's probably a good idea that you're doing it. So that book really helped me see it in a different way. And yeah, it was a little bit nervous at first, when I started posting, but then I was getting all this great feedback. And one of the things, when I first joined Instagram in particular, because Instagram is very visual, I didn't know what to make of it. But I finally realized after following people and unfollowing people and sort of designing the what I wanted to see on Instagram, I realized that it's a wonderful tool for curating the people that you want to see. And in my case, I'm curating local artists and also artists around the world. So if you look at my Instagram, you're going to see a lot of local artists here in San Francisco, in the Sunset, and others that are around the States. And that keeps it very inspirational for me, because I look at it like, oh, someone made a new paper automata or paper pop-up, and someone's doing this fantastic painting, and this other person's doing watercolor. And so it's a source of inspiration, and it's just a great way to share as you're making, as you're doing it. Yeah.
I was curious. I really liked your story about how you came to identify as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it sounds like you also had a day job,
Yeah.
and a career.
Yes.
And I was kind of curious how you navigate that identity, and like, as an example, like you're meeting a stranger socially for like the first time, and the conversation rolls around to like, oh, what do you do? And I was kind of curious about like how you answer that.
I've given it a little bit of thought, and I'm becoming more and more comfortable with just saying, look, I'm an artist. I think of it this way. I tinker, right? This is who I am. This is what I do. I tinker. I build things. What I do during my day job is really tinkering. I write software, but it's tinkering, and it's actually one of the best forms of tinkering, because one of the ideas about tinkering for me is failing, right? You build something and it doesn't work quite right. Well, if there's anything out there that is like that, it's software, right? You write a bit of code, it fails. You make an adjustment, it fails. You fail and fail and fail and fail and fail until it works, and it's like, wow, okay, this is great. So the process of writing software has made me very comfortable with repetitive failure, in the sense that it's like, I'm not a failure. I'm just tinkering. I'm just working on it until it works. So in that sense, I really don't see much difference between what I do in work and what I do in my art. But yes, I'm comfortable now when people ask that, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm an artist," and then we can go from there and see what questions they ask.
What time did you get up in the morning?
6:30. So alarm goes off 6:25.
And then you do your meditation and your dream thing. And
Yeah.
How long do you meditate for?
I'm doing 10-minute meditations.
And then your dream sessions, how long?
Anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. The thing about the dream practice is I have to stop and start writing things down, otherwise I start forgetting, right? If I come up with too many ideas and I don't remember, I don't remember them to be able to write them down. So there's like a natural point. It's like, oh boy, what was that first thing I thought of? Then that's the point where I have to stop, and I might make a mental bookmark and say, okay, I'm going to start my dream practice tomorrow morning with this new idea. But usually I have ideas that come up during the day. And that's my starting point for the dream practice. Well, great.
I have another comment if there's no other questions, and it's this idea that, as a few of us have worked on Playland over the years, and really have enjoyed the art container. And you're not the first one who has said, who I've heard say, I can't do an artist residence. I'm not an artist. And this place, because this is sort of not a gallery, not a museum, you know, it's a little bit off, outside of the mainstream. It's kind of safer to explore that. And we've had a few people, you know, who have brought in, you know, stuff that you wouldn't call art, but it's their creative endeavor. And so I think, you know, as we, if anyone else is interested in exploring that, you should ask Francis and John here who are managing it. But, you know, Playland is going to be closing within a year probably because of the teacher housing. And so, you know, clearly this space has been valuable for that, not only for the people who have had the residencies and been able to explore their creative process, but for all of us to see that happening has been really great. So keep everyone in our community, keep that in mind. And if you hear about organization and ask meetings to continue the spirit of Playland, come along and help us out to do that. Is that a good rousing speech?
It's been an incredible opportunity, and I'm so thankful for the opportunities. So thankful that this is here and that you suggested it to me. It really is amazing. So thank you, everyone.